But Ben, I think there's only one place we can start, mate.
Who's going to do the thing that Usain Bolt used to do at 30 metres and really just start sprinting?
Sheffield United are in a relegation battle.
I think they already are. They're in a relegation battle.
Nobody goes under my radar.
I do think Morris and Hackney are the best in the Championship, to be honest. But I will be biased.
Russell Martin's going to get the Norwich job before the season is out. Hello guys, welcome back to The Sportsman Untitled. Delighted to have you with us, and I'm delighted to be joined by Benjamin Bloom as always, and Jonny from the Boro Breakdown podcast. Now on this week's show, we're going to have a deep dive into Middlesbrough, who lost their unbeaten run, leaving Coventry as the only unbeaten team in the Championship. We're also going to have a look at the weekend's results, and there's Capology who have released their football financial figures, which we'll also take a look at later in the show. But Ben, I think there's only one place we can start, mate. Big smile.
Coventry's excellent week, Simon, yeah?
No, Ipswich 3, Norwich 1. The 16-year hoodoo is over. You predicted an Ipswich win. What a day for you, right?
It was fantastic, wasn't it? And we talk a lot about tactics and logic, and this was just pure emotion of bragging rights in a part of the country where there's only one football team in this county, one football team in this county. You don't go that way, you don't go that way, and we meet twice a season when we're in the same division. And finally, and it's kind of happened in a weird order, because obviously we had the double promotion and Ipswich were actually a league above Norwich without having beaten them. However, the last thing to tick off now is the victory. And I don't know how you guys feel about it. There was a sense when that treble substitution was made and Ipswich have now got the parachute payments and they've now got the power off the bench, that you're like, these two clubs have swapped places from where they were a few seasons ago. Norwich have been the absolute masters at dripping out their Premier League era and still having a good squad. But yeah, as an Ipswich fan, purely emotionally led here, so happy.
It was interesting. It's really interesting you mentioned the subs, actually. And the reason I make Ipswich still the favourites for the title, which we might come on to later, the players you didn't bring off the bench, Jacob Greaves, Casey McAteer, I'm just like, they would probably get into most of the squads in the Championship. The players you did bring on,
and what a big call, Simon. Kip Pray is not the 17 million quid left-footed English centre-half. Greaves is. Kip Pray in from the start, got the goal, was probably the most composed on the ball, while Norwich were pressing frankly quite well in the first half. And Kieran McKenna, we'd come here after games in the promotion season and say how clever he looked every time. Kieran McKenna looking very smart again.
And Jonny, we have to mention a certain Philogene wonder goal, don't we? What do you make of him and the game in general?
He's a star, isn't he, at this level, Philogene? I think that with Ipswich and the quality that they've got in the squad, I think it's only a matter of time until they really climb up the table now and start to compete at the top. But for me, Philogene, how many times does he just cut in and just whip it? You know what I mean? Every time I just love him.
Weak foot, that one, Jonny.
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, he could be comfortably playing at a much higher level, and to have him for you, Ben, I bet you're absolutely ecstatic to have him.
Well, we used to be, the ones moaning about going against the cheat code players. I mean, we're going to talk about Fatawu later on, and sometimes it's the churn. How many times do you play well in 46 games? Sometimes you just need your cheat code to smash it in from 30 yards. But, I mean, he's already got 5, all at Portman Road, all from outside the box. It's fantastic. And the kind of feeling is that, OK, you can double up on him, but then there's Smodics and there's Eggerly and there's Hurst and, yeah.
Plenty of Marcelino Nunes housery as well at full time with the flags and all the celebrations as well. We should probably talk about Norwich, because I actually think they did okay for the majority of the game there, Jonny. But Liam Manning feels like he's under a bit of pressure already with recent results. And if you lose a 16-game run against your fiercest rivals, you're not going to be a popular man, are you?
Yeah, we just need to look at the home form, don't you? 5 in a row they've lost, and they used to be so good at home, Norwich. And to see that flip and be away from home, yeah, it's interesting, but I would say that for me, like, yes, they are a transitional team. Yes, the press okay, but the one big standout for me is the recruitment. I think the recruitment's been really poor in the summer. Admittedly, I thought they were going to be in the top 6 this year.
Me too.
And I was quite surprised seeing them at Carrow Road and being so, like, open. The gaps between the defence and midfield were too big. They didn't know when to press. They didn't know when to, stay in shape. So, yeah, I'd be quite concerned if I was a Norwich fan, to be honest, because when the results start to dry up away from home, and knowing teams already know how to beat them at home, I just don't know where the points are going to come from.
Is that recruitment going to come good, though? Because there's a lot of young sort of European players, and there is still an upside if they can get going. But you hope they're not. But have they signed busts?
Time will tell, isn't it? It's hard to write them off, but when you're bringing quite a few players, want them to gel straight away, a new manager, I just think there's too much change. And then when you've got too much change, there's no consistency. People don't really know where they should be. And you can see that indecisiveness when they play as well. And I think all of that collated into one thing is the reason why they are at the moment.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And young players hopefully will come good, but I'm not sure it'll be this season. It feels a bit early, and they are in transition. Right, we have to talk about Coventry, Ben. Top of the league, unbeaten.
Shame
3
for you,
out of
Simon,
3.
isn't it, hey?
Unbeaten, 3 out of 3, perfect week. 27 goals scored in 9 games. 4-0 win at Millwall, 5-0 win at Sheffield Wednesday since we last spoke. So it's all looking a bit too good for me, isn't it?
So, because I knew I was coming face to face with you today, I tried to have a look at Marco Silva's Fulham and saw if they had a better 3-game week. I found a Tuesday. So you're going to tell me that's not a proper 3-game week, where they won 6-2, 6-2, 7-0, or no, 7-0, 6-2, 6-2 or something ridiculous like that. But if we're sat here comparing Coventry to Mitrovic and Silva and Wilson and that team, we've been fairly uncertain on this podcast this season about, right, who's going for this? Who's going to do the thing that Usain Bolt used to do at 30 metres and really just start sprinting? And maybe that's Coventry now. And, I mean, you can't get a better week than 12 goals for 0 goals against and 9 points. The only team to do the 9-point week as well. Ipswich and Watford, I think, got 7. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're the only ones on there. But, I mean, there's nothing I can really say that isn't blindingly obvious. You know, no goals conceded, loads of goals scored. I looked at their top scorers in the league, and there's Wright, and there's Torp, and there's Thomas Asante. So it's all coming up roses. And Jonny mentioned too much churn at other clubs, and Coventry didn't really do a lot in the window. They've ridden out a winning team with a manager that generally gets it. Okay. Let me come to you with one question then. Can Frank win against the parachute teams and the big boys?
I think he can, definitely at home. The away games will obviously be really difficult, and it is too early to be talking about, you know, automatic promotion or the title. But it's not. Perfect.
Absolutely not.
It's been a very, very good start to the season. I think what's been really impressive for us this season has been the improvement in players of last season. Thomas Asante, a lot of Cov fans would have taken the money back. There was interest from Blackburn. He's been exceptional this season. Some of the goals he's scored. Victor Torp looks like a Frank Lampard regen. He's been injured. What we've done with Jack Rodoni, we haven't had him for the last 3 games. He's our best player. 3 wins on the trot. So it's all just getting better and better and better. And Jonny, I have to come to you because it was us two at the top of the table unbeaten. You obviously lost your unbeaten record at Portsmouth. We'll come on to Boro in a bit, but how impressed have you been with the Sky Blues?
I have been very, very impressed with Coventry, to be honest. What I love about them the most, and we talk about numbers and XG and say, well, you can stat pad in terms of like set pieces and crosses, but what I really like is they're creating really high quality chances every single game consistently. And that for me is such a great sign for you as well, Sam. I bet you're absolutely buzzing. But, you know, wherever Coventry go, Middlesbrough are not behind them or we're above you or whatever. So we're kind of like twins at this point, to be honest, me and you, Simon. So, I mean, hopefully we'll have a promotion party together this season. If not, we'll see each other in the playoffs. And if we don't see each other, we're both going to miss out on the playoffs. So, but yeah, honestly, really, really impressed. Like, the team to beat elite in all the numbers, yeah, you couldn't have asked for a better start, to be honest.
Absolutely. We always do tend to see each other next to each other in the table, whatever that is. I think, again, I always mention squad depth. I think that is an issue where Coventry can struggle against a team like Ipswich, looking at the subs, especially with a few injuries. But these international breaks, I think, are helping Coventry with a smaller squad. They can get some players back fit, hopefully get to January and then reinvest and go again. So,
Simon, look at the next 6. Blackburn, Portsmouth, Watford is the...
So that's 6-0, 7-0, 8-0? Is that how the pattern goes?
That's ridiculous. Wrexham, Sheffield United, Stoke, and that takes you to the next international break. I know it's easy to say when a team's top of the league and beating everyone, all the games look easy, don't they? But looks a Looks an okay run for some more points. Are you committing to that?
No.
I don't want to jinx you as well. When we did it last year, we scored 4, 5, 6. We played Blackburn next, and everyone was thinking, 8, 7, here we go. I've got beat 1-0. So no pressure.
Let's talk about Preston North End as well, because they are absolutely flying. Now, in the pre-season preview, I'll hold my hands up. I'm always a bit negative about Preston. I said I feel a bit Cardiff-y about them. Essentially saying they might get relegated this season. I think Conor McGilligan said they're in deep Dale trouble. I'm going to have to come back to that pun. Terrible. Statman Dave, they look so scattergun. We're going to see a team like Preston or Oxford going down. Ben, I think this was the wider view of Preston ahead of the season.
Well, notice you don't have a ridiculous Benjamin Bloom quote from the...
Didn't you have them in your bottom three?
I can't remember. No, I totally saw where you were all coming from. You know, the trend down at the end of last season was alarming, wasn't it? And, I mean, I suppose the one thing they did is they did business early, although, to be fair, I was sat there saying, OK, it's free transfers and loans, and we talk about Thierry Small or taking a player from League One, and maybe Jebison is someone who'd been tried at other clubs in the Championship and not quite come off. And then I suppose the question about Heckingbottom was, he's got that golden ticket, the Championship promotion, but then you say, well, he's with a parachute team in quite a stoic season when Coventry and Middlesbrough in the playoffs that season, weren't they? When I think I got the right year when Sheffield United went up. And brilliant at home, hard to play against, start games well, and it sounds simple, but sometimes if you just front load the season with a load of points, especially at home, you're sailing for the rest of it, because there's lots of other teams underneath you with loads more problems to deal with that you don't have to.
They've only lost one game as well, Johnny, so incredibly impressive. Even if they're kind of tight margins, 2-0 win at home to Charlton, who have also done pretty well this season. They've just exceeded all my expectations.
Well, at home, look at the form. Unbeaten, they've played Ipswich, Leicester, us, Bristol City. Had some really good points on the board for them. What I like about them, though, Preston, is that they're a long ball team, and we don't really see many long ball sides anymore. We need to bring back long ball. It's really efficient. I think
I loved Ishmael's Barnsley, by the way.
Yeah,
they were classic, weren't they?
Well, it's just so effective, and I think when teams don't come up against it every week, it's like a bit of a shock to the system. But I think Iverson is arguably probably been the best goalkeeper so far this year. Definitely very good in his shot stopping, but also his distribution as well. The big switches, the second balls, horrible to play against. I mean, the fourth, I think, for yellow bookings as well. So I really like them. They're a horrible side to play against, but that's what makes the Championship so great, isn't it?
I think long throws are coming back in fashion this season, aren't they? Everyone seems to have got one.
But it's a trend, isn't it? I think one team see Arsenal do it and they go, well, you know what, if Arsenal can do it, then we can do it. Then
Brentford are sat there going, hang on.
Yeah, we've done it for the last 3 seasons, what's going on? But yeah, I think winning the second balls, the duels, the long balls in the corners, and I think it's just brilliant. I think it's really, really good. Admittedly, though, they are overachieving. They will drop. I think they'll see not a similar fate to last year, where they were on a horrendous run, but I think they will subsidise and go into about the mid-table place. But you can't argue on what a great start they've had. They've turned the draws from, say, last season, where they were draw FC, to now turning draws into wins and looking like a really good outfit as well. Yeah,
as always, I say I'm negative on Preston. I really don't mean to be, but they have created the second lowest XG in the division this season, 1.16 per 90, and they're 18th for XG difference. So that would suggest they drop down.
Scored double the amount of points at Deepdale than they have on the road. So you just worry if a couple of teams get a point or a win at Deepdale and that evens out, then you're not a top 6 team anymore. But come on, they've been great.
You also wanted to have a word on celebrating against former clubs, didn't you?
Yeah, I just don't see the issue with players doing it. Look, I always remember Kevin Phillips. I think he scored for Southampton at Sunderland after scoring a bazillion goals for Sunderland and being, their greatest striker of the modern era. I assume Thierry Small was getting a bit of grief from the away end, and as long as it's all in the right spirit and banterous, I've got no issue. And I don't know. I think there's not celebrating, and then there's this whole I don't know. I fear the lady doth protest too much in that respect.
I want a full Adebayor pitch length sprint, knee
As I say,
slide
as
in
long
front
as
of
it
the
doesn't
away
go too
fans.
far, yeah.
I mean, Nunes did it, yesterday. I mean, he only celebrated a tiny bit. I mean, he only went to the supporters and sat next to like a print screen of a tweet, and he only.
You see the bit of the corner flag as well.
Yeah, and the corner. He only did that. I mean, it's only the worst. But I just going to say on the Preston bit as well for low XG, teams like Preston who play a long ball statistically normally have a really low XG. They go for quality, but when those really dry up, that's when you go, well, where the chance is going to come from. If a team sits deep and lets them have the ball, then that's where I think they'll have a lot of trouble.
But it's going very, very well for Preston right now. Amazing run under Heckenbottom. And we should also talk about Queen's Park Rangers. Since losing 7-1 at Coventry, they're unbeaten, 4 wins and 2 draws. They beat Bristol City 2-1 away from home this weekend. Richard Kone scores again, 4 goals for the season, Ben. I mean, this has been a really, really impressive turnaround from a team that were bit shaky defensively, we have to say, causing themselves some issues. The way Julian Stefan's turned this around, I think, brilliant over the last kind of month or so.
Yeah, and the alarm bells are when you lose 7-1 at any point in your career as a manager. It's always, what happens next? Is that
result doesn't look as bad now either when you see what Coventry have done to other teams.
No, well, quite. And obviously Kone's made a big difference, hasn't it? Having that guy that can run. And Burrell as well is, I know he's the namesake of a former US sprinter, but he's a runner in behind as well. And all of a sudden, Dembele came into the game on Wednesday and, was kind of making things happen. Saito as well. There's options there in terms of the front four. But I think you just got to look at the resilience after losing the game 7-1. And Mr. Cifuentes is, I think, third with Leicester at the moment. For them to be that close to their former manager is something they probably didn't expect this season. But, and this comes to Johnny's point about Preston, this is a table after 9 games. This will shuffle about and, maybe we're talking about Bristol City having fizzled out a little bit. West Brom we were excited about a few weeks ago. So there'll be some up and downs and, dare I say, some more predictable teams might be coming up there, but great to see QPR up there after that poor start.
Absolutely. I think it's the amount of attacking options that they've got. They've built a really exciting squad, it seems.
Yeah, QPR tend to do that, don't they? Like they always seem to find stars in their team and to build it. One player I'm really happy for is Burrell, to be honest. He was at Middlesbrough. We sold him to Burton.
I didn't realise that, okay.
I feel from in a way because we had so many players in front of him like a few seasons ago, like Akpom, Cameron Archer, and obviously we've seen Emmanuel Elaf come in, and he made his debut under Neil Warnock against Brentford, and ever since then he went to Scotland, didn't really make a huge impact. So then when we did let him go, it was like one of those players where you thought, I think you're being unfortunate because of circumstance, but two, I think it just sometimes the manager just doesn't favour you. So I'm really delighted to see him come good now and be in the Championship and start to make a real impact. But in terms of the attacking options, goodness gracious me, like they're a fun team to watch. Yeah. They're really fun. They'll give up chances, but they'll score them. I think they're a case of, look, we'll score more than you and hope for the best, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's room for a team like this in the Championship to really push on for the playoffs as well. Yeah. And we might expect Preston to drop down a bit, but I don't know. I'm feeling quite excited about QPR just because they're exciting to watch. A team that's not quite so exciting to watch, Ben. Sheffield United, they've lost again. Chris Wilder now, 3 defeats out of 4 in charge. 8 defeats out of 9 this season. Still at the bottom of the Championship. Where do they go from here?
Well, we get very concerned looking as bigger idiots as we did when talking about Luton last season, where we're like, I know Sheffield United's a year 2 parachute team and Luton was year 1, but we're sat there week on week going, well, okay, they are where they are, but this is going to turn, this is going to come good. You'd have a bit more, if I'm making a direct apples to apples comparison with Luton and Sheffield United, you'd say Sheffield United in terms of stature and having been up at the top of the Championship and in the Premier League, have a little bit more about them there. Maybe squad-wise in terms of that Championship experience, they've got a little bit more. But they are just hapless at the moment. And when you see them get a penalty in minute 88 and you think, okay, get out of Dodge, take the point here, and they don't score the penalty. So there is clearly some kind of psychological fragility. They just need to, it sounds obvious, they just need to not lose for a few games and stop that habit. But yeah, it's surprising. You're right to point out, 5 defeats in 5 under Sellers, 3 in 4 under Wilder, and he's very clever, and he's now running the kind of we didn't know what a big mess it was, but it clearly is, and it's up there. They're good players, Simon.
They're very good players.
Yeah.
They are. You would expect them to turn it around at some point, and we all kind of assumed that, but we all assumed Luton would turn it around, and they didn't, and they went down. So at what point, Johnny, are we like Sheffield United are in a relegation battle here?
I think they already are. They're in a relegation battle. They look, like Ben said, they're hapless. They're really bad, like really, really bad. And to be fair to Chris Wilder saying they're in such a big mess, like you were literally there 3 months ago. Like, did you
and
not
the players
to see this coming?
Still Cooper. They've added Tanganga. There's Gus Hamer still there. There's Tyrese Campbell still there. Callum O'Hare. There's a spine of that team, which is more than good enough for the Championship. And yet, it's just a lack of confidence, isn't it?
It is a lack of confidence as well, but also they've been trying to play away, which didn't really suit them as well for the start. And you think, okay, is it going to take a while for it to all come together? But like nothing looks good defensively, going forward, like in possession. There's like literally nothing where I'm saying, you know what, I can see what they're going to do. I just think they look really hapless, and they are in a relegation battle. Like I think that's it.
Is there not an argument now? Winter's coming. We got 3-game week gap, 3-game week. Keep it tight. Don't get ahead of the ball. Give it to Harmer. Give it to O'Hare. Get some clean sheets and trend up. And do you know what I mean? Just play a bit pragmatic. This next block of 6 games is going to fly by, and you don't want one win in the win column when we're back here at the next international break.
I was going to say, Wilder can't really do much either. Like, if in those 3-game weeks, it's pretty much game, recovery. So really, what can he do on the training ground apart from this international break? I reckon he's probably got those players in every single day doing double sessions to get them where he wants them to be. But yeah, it's a really difficult place for them to be in. But yeah, I'm not convinced by them whatsoever. They might finish like 17th, 18th, but for me,
they've got it in them to win 5 out of 7 at any point, and which we know when you're down at the bottom of the table, just like rocket fuel because the pace is so slow. But yeah, so surprised it hasn't turned in a bigger way already.
It's almost like they need a Cifuentes style manager who can be pragmatic in those 3 games and use your elite players to win games. Yeah. But we'll have to wait and see what happens to Sheffield United. You wanted a word about Watford as well, Ben, didn't you? Because they got another...
I mean, you should talk about Watford, Simon, because you were raising the idea that the manager there was in a lot of trouble. I mean, it says on my running order here the word viable. It's not very viable because the fans don't seem behind him, the players don't seem behind him. We had Iran Kunda storming off the pitch after being subbed within 35 minutes in midweek. But 7 points across the week. They were behind in all 3 of the games, so it's completely bonkers. Fullback scored twice in first half stoppage time and 1 from a corner. So maybe I'm answering my own question. But are you now more confident in Mr. Petzolano being retained by Mr. Pozzo?
for another week? He'll probably make it to the next side of the international break. I don't think there's a scenario in which this relationship goes well unless he wins. It's almost
7 point weeks will do it.
Yeah, that's exactly it though, isn't it? Every win pushes his tenure on for another week almost.
Maybe, yeah.
There's fans singing "You're getting sacked in the morning" to their own manager, even when they're not losing games, Johnny. Is that just Watford Football Club, or what is going on?
That's just Watford, to be honest. At this point, let's be honest. Look, he's had just a very mixed start, hasn't he? Like, I remember watching him in pre-season. I watched a couple of games, and I thought that's a bit weird in terms of systems. Like, there was a centre back, like a centre forward. There was a wing back playing in the 10, and I was thinking, I feel like I'm watching pro clubs here in real life. But yeah, it seems like he's turned around a little bit for the week, but I can't see him lasting past the international break, to be honest.
He's got people like Loser and Iran Kunda can win you games, though.
Players.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'd love him to prove us all wrong. Wouldn't you just love that? A Watford manager to lead them into the playoffs and prove us all wrong and keep his job.
And then be sacked.
Yeah, you are right, actually. That's no guarantee he'll keep his job. Right, it's time to talk about Middlesbrough in depth. It's why we've got Johnny on the show. And what a week to talk about them. They were unbeaten heading into the weekend. Then they go and lose 1-0 at Portsmouth. Great timing, Johnny. But it's been a good start on the whole, hasn't it, for Boro?
It's been a fantastic start. A really nice surprise. All 3 of us said mid-table, so we all look foolish now, even though it's after 9 games. Taking away the last game against Portsmouth, I'm really, really happy with where we are. We look a lot more solid. Yes, safe in possession, but we're slowly just chipping away, and I think it's really fantastic because last couple of seasons we've had a really slow start and had to play catch up. Now this time, averaged in 2 points a game, in a comfortable position in second place. So now we can afford maybe 1 or 2 defeats and still be in a decent position.
And we have to talk about the impact that Edwards has had. We've talked about it because he is good at all the PR. He's great at getting fans on side. He's great at buying into the club. But it feels like he rode the crest of a wave coming in and turned things around very quickly. And that unbeaten run top of the table for quite a long time this season, it's gone really, really well. And as a Carrick replacement, he's probably exceeded your expectations.
He definitely has. When you looked at Boro's fixtures and went, that's a bit of a tough start.
It was the toughest start statistically in the Championship, by the way.
Exactly, and then to come away with what we've got and barely conceding goals and looking more defensively sound, it's been nice.
Johnny, is it just because he's the binary of Carrick? Is he just so because Carrick was kind of quiet and understated, and Edwards has got the $1 million smile and, like you say, is brilliant with the fans and the media. Carrick maybe wasn't pragmatic, and I'm not going to say the team wasn't organised because they were organised in a different way, but has he almost just done all the opposite things that Carrick didn't do, and thus they've had such a big effect?
You can say that, yeah. I think if you break down what the 3 things that Rob Edwards has done since he's came in, one is set pieces. Middlesbrough are much better than set pieces than they have been under the last couple of seasons. I would say change of shape, so going into a back 3 and then in possession. If you watch Luton in the Premier League, you'll see a lot of similarities where when they're in possession, they'll move to a back 4 where one of the full-backs will tuck across. At Luton it was Doherty, and now it's Callum Britton on the right-hand side, so it's flipped. And then you go into a 4-2-4 shape, and then you'll have your 2 who play pretty much box-to-box. One sits, one tends to go, which just tends to be Hackney. But that shape in the back 3 and playing a lot deeper has helped us play a lot more safe, make sure we're not getting caught in the transition as much. And then that third point as well is we're a much more vertical team now. It's very much try and play in a straight line and then hopefully create that chance, and it's less is more in terms of quality chances. Boro are down there for XG now, I think a 3rd or 4th bottom, but it's just because we're trying
never get caught ahead of the ball, yeah?
Exactly, yeah. And we play now where we're looking for more quality, but that creative spark is probably one thing where you look at and go, and Middlesbrough, when it dries up, when teams sit deep like Portsmouth did, are they able to break them down? They have the quality to do it, but I think they're just playing with a little bit of a handbrake on at the moment.
One goal in the last 3.
Yeah, 1 in the last 3, so you can see where teams are starting to nullify that. In that first game, and I think where Edwards has been really pragmatic in some capacity, where the first game against Swansea in the first half against Middlesbrough were getting the ball to the centre-back to 10, missed out Hackney and Morris, who are arguably your 2 best players. We switched it in the second half against Millwall and played through Hackney a lot more, and we just unlocked a lot of things, and we've started to play that now. But now teams are going, well, actually, I can probably give Hackney and Morris the ball, but if we just sit a little bit deeper and block the 10, then it's not going to get anywhere. So I think the next iteration of what Edwards will have to look at is how do we use the wing-backs more? How do we get them higher up the pitch? Matt Targett on the left-hand side was more defensive, but you've got Callum Britton there who's got really good delivery, probably one of the best right-backs in the Championship in terms of getting forward and whip the ball in the box. So there's a lot to like about this team, but I think Edwards has made those really nice tweaks along with Adi Vivesh as well, which is a very counter-attacking coach. I think it's starting to play on Boro's strengths a little bit more, where the transition was relatively quite good and they're a lot more safer. But then I feel like in a couple of weeks you're going to ask me, Johnny, when is Rob Edwards going to take the handbrake off Boro, and when are they going to start flying again?
We obviously talk about Hackney and Morris a lot as a duo, and they're kind of the names that roll off the tongue, aren't they, when you talk about Boro. Just how good are they as a duo, and how far can they take Boro?
And can I throw in as well, Simon, compare and contrast with Caust and Matasira at Ipswich? I think it's between those 2 teams for the best central midfield pair in the Championship.
Matt Grimes, Victor Torp, Jack Rodona, no? Can I throw?
To be fair, I would say it's a very good midfield 3.
It's a good top 3.
It's a very good top 3, to be honest, but I do think Morris and Hackney are the best in the Championship, to be honest. But I will be biased. I'm a Middlesbrough fan. But Hackney could have easily been an Ipswich shirt, So, and I thought it was going to happen. I wouldn't have blamed him. It was a lot more money than he's getting at Teesside. And I thought, fair enough, promotion, they're probably going to get it. But for him to stay, I think that is such a big advantage now for Middlesbrough now. Because I think if we lost him, all of our opinion of mid-table would have probably been accurate. But to have Hackney in the team, him and Morris just make such a big difference. But we've got some good depth there. Abdoulaye Kante, who's came in, he looks like a really nice tidy 6 as well. I've just got his name in terms of midfielder from Preston.
Brown,
that's the one. It was Brown. I was like, my name's just eluded me. But really good depth there now as midfield 4, where previously we were looking at maybe Dan Barlaser to play that role, and he couldn't really do it. So, yeah, there's definitely improvement in that midfield. And I think with Hackney and Morris, you've got the blend of someone who is an engine in Morris and someone Hackney who can just bring the ball forward, and he's probably one of the best midfielders to do that in the league.
I'll come to you on this one, Ben. We've seen Rob Edwards when it's all going well and how good his teams can be. They've now not scored in 2. They've lost their last game. Their unbeaten run's gone. How will he respond this season to a couple of defeats in a row? And can he do better than he did at Luton last season?
I think he will. I think Luton was a bit of a imperfect storm, wasn't it? That they'd reached a decades high peak that they were coming down off as a club, and we've all raised you spend your parachute payments on a stadium and don't really spend when you're in the Premier League. And dare I say, Steve Gibson probably invests more than Luton did, even when they had parachute payments. But you're right to point out it's completely unravelled. He looks like he's got his mojo back, doesn't he? And we do a lot with these projections, and you already mentioned 2 points per game at round 9. Even if it's 1.8, and I'll keep talking about this next block at round 15, you don't have to be amazing to get in the playoffs after that. You're just nice and consistent for the remaining 30 and you're up there. So I don't know how you feel about where Boro sit in this hierarchy. We almost don't know what it is, because are Southampton going to come strong? Are Leicester going to get deducted lots of points and put them on the back foot? Are Ipswich now going to go silly? Are West Brom going to come back? And there's more evidence that Boro are consistent than all of those teams, really.
If you want my opinion on it, I feel this season might turn into your regular season, where it's the 3 parachute teams and one other. At the moment, I think the one other is probably going to be Coventry, but Boro, I think, are probably closer to 4th in terms of Leicester. Southampton, all their data is good. I think they will come good if they stick with Will Still. Ipswich, I think, should be title favourites for a reason, given their squad depth. You've got a game in hand and you're only 6 points off top, which for a start of the season, which has had its issues, I think is very good. And Leicester, really, really good, as long as they don't get points deducted. So we just have to take them at face value at the minute.
Can I throw one more thing in about Boro?
Go on, please.
Johnny's description, he described a team that would be very good at tournament football. Oh. And we know how the season ends if you finish between 3rd and 6th.
Just saying, we've never won at Wembley.
So have expectations changed for Boro already this season? We said maybe mid-table at the start of the season. Obviously, you were top of the league for a little while, or you're in second at the minute as we go into the international break. Surely, you're getting a bit giddy, surely.
It has to change. I think a lot of fans now are starting to go, well, the expectation is like playoffs. It has to be playoffs. And you can probably argue some fans might say, hey, we were top of the league, we should be going up automatic. And, this season will be very, very interesting for Middlesbrough. I think the one question I think we have to answer is just, can we ensure that creativity is kept, and can we still create chances and more high quality chances? If we don't do that, then I don't think we'll.
Johnny, do you accept the premise though that they underachieved last season and that the playoffs is kind of par for Boro anyway?
Yeah, we definitely underachieved last year. The numbers were always good for Middlesbrough. We always created chances. Yes, we give stuff away, but when you look at from that post-January, you lose Manuel Laelaf, you lose Ben Doak, who your 2 most creative outlets were gone. We didn't have any defenders. We were playing Johnny Howson at centre-half in the last day of the season. And I think it all just unravelled for Michael Carrick, to be honest, at that time. And yes, it was definitely a failure in the end to miss out and be in such bad form than we were.
And when it was only 68 points or whatever as well, yeah.
That's what makes you a little bit sick, to be honest, because we were comfortably a playoff team for most of the season. And we were really competitive against everyone, but from that January, when you start to play Kelechi Iheanacho in the 10 and he's just not fit, and then you're playing everyone like Fernandez as well, you've got no runners in behind, it was just all too compact, nothing was breaking down. All the goodness that you're seeing from Carrick's Middlesbrough was just gone. And then you were starting to give up more and more chances because you're becoming more desperate, and then it all just unravelled from there.
I think it's been interesting to see the evolution this season for sure. I'm always putting Boro in the playoffs in the top 6, and I think this season I didn't because I was sure Hackney was going to leave. I think if you'd have said Hackney's going to be in the Boro team, I think people, as you mentioned, would have changed their opinion. Do you want to predict a Boro finish for us, or? Go on, top 6, sure.
Well, to be honest, I even our prediction show, I still said 8th to 10th because I just felt that we just weren't there yet, and we still doesn't know his front 3 yet. You know, we've got Conway, David Strelic, Kelly Sen, and you look at Sonny Jansen as well, and you're going, there's quite a few players that you can maybe put into this 3, and obviously Sverre Nipan as well, and you just go, once that clicks, maybe you can go, okay, well, yeah, probably top 6 will be comfortable. I feel like I've had so many years of just let down in terms of like, we were so close and then we keep failing. I've just become pessimistic and just been like, nah, we're going to be 10th, we're not going to get playoffs this year, like forget about it. But I'm going to have to say playoffs now. If I don't say playoffs now, I'll probably get lynched in Middlesbrough if I do that.
And also, the first game back after the international break, Ben, is Middlesbrough versus Ipswich. It's the Friday night game.
It's almost like this is planned, isn't it?
Almost. Tough game for Ipswich, tough game for Boro.
Yeah, and you then need to factor in 3-game week, and is a draw okay at the start of the week if you're going to end up putting 5-6 points on the board? I know you're going to be previewing it properly next week, but yeah, I think both sides will look at that as a hard game, and then both sides will be like, right, can we lay down a marker and go and win this one now? So going to be a good one.
Just Chuba Akpom, 94th minute, and it's just going to be
he's not in the 11 at the moment, Johnny.
Look, it's typical Boro. Like, honestly, every time we have a former player come to the other side, they always just turn into like a prime Messi, and it's just like, I'm honest to God, I am so nervous for this game. I think Ipswich are slowly getting there. Like the wheels are in motion now.
Sing to me.
And I think they have so much quality. Like, you know, and I think it's only that one game where it just all comes together. And I genuinely thought the game of the weekend against Norwich was the one where they're just going to start to go sizzler. And with Boro as well, they're not creating too many chances at the moment. Are we going to give the ball as enough? So one side, it might fall in our favour because we don't have much of the ball and we have to be on the transition. That might favour us. But the second part of it is the quality of Ipswich, where I'm just a bit nervous, and Chuba Akpom and just breaking my heart from there.
Excellent stuff. Stay tuned for next week's episode of the Sportsman Title. I'll be joined by, who's on tomorrow next week? Gab Sutton and Conor McGilligan. I did remember in the end. We will preview that game properly. I wanted to get a quick thought from you, Ben, though, on Russell Martin. Sacked by Rangers, obviously familiar with the EFL. Had a really difficult spell lately, hasn't he, the poor fella? Do you think we could see him back in the Championship somewhere?
I absolutely think we could see him back in the Championship. Obviously, Russ Martin deranges football supporters in the main, and we've had it. I mean, the main bulk of his work's been at Championship level with Swansea and with Southampton, and I always kind of land on the terminology of hyper possession, where it is so, about keeping the ball and not even about moving it quickly, just keep it, and those numbers. And people call me a Russ Martin apologist, and I am a little bit. I think if he goes into an interview with a Championship owner, he will get a Championship job. I'm not saying he's a snake oil salesman. He's obviously a very good talker. I think there's something there with what he's trying to do. The purist in me wants a manager to be, you were talking about, like, it's fun to have a long ball team. I think it's great for the diversity of styles in the league to have a team that wants to play in quite an extreme way. I know you'll tell me Southampton had the parachute payments and had the great squad, but it's a 23-game unbeaten streak, and he won the playoffs against a Leeds team that had the biggest wage budget of a team never to be promoted in Championship history. So he's not the mug that some people paint him out to be, and I don't think he's going to be short of job offers. Will a job at a certain former club of his come up in the immediate future?
That's exactly,
just asking it as a question.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'll spell it out for you. Russell Martin's going to get the Norwich job before the season is out. That's what I think is going to happen.
I'm a Liam Manning apologist as well.
Oh,
so.
yeah. I hope Manning does well, but I could just see that happening. It feels like it's a good fit there, Jonny. Capology, we need to cover this as well, have released some wages. Now, this is just their research, by the way, and what they've put together. We're not actually sure how factual this is, but it makes for a good discussion anyway. So these are the highest earning 11s in the Championship, player by player. I'm going to start with the teams, including the parachute payment relegated teams. So obviously, they make up a lot of these. So goalkeepers, Alex McCarthy, 40 grand. Ricardo Pereira, 80 grand. This is per week, by the way. Vestergaard on 60k at Leicester. Ben Godfrey, allegedly on 75 grand a week at Sheffield United. Matt Targett, 60 grand a week at Boro, apparently.
Yeah, there's an article, wasn't there, that he was on 100 grand a week when he signed for Newcastle. And I don't know how much we're paying in terms of wages, but if we're paying 100 grand for Matt Targett, goodness gracious me.
Well, 60 grand sounds like a bargain.
Yeah, I mean, what is it, 3.5 million, is it, for the season, maybe, if that? But so it's not, I guess it's not that bad. If you put it in, like, if you're going to pay the fee for it, then again, it's not that bad. Yeah, 3.5 million for a Premier League centre left back, I'll take it. But yeah, 60 grand a week, goodness gracious me. He's got some agent, like, hasn't he? So does Ben Godfrey. Oh my goodness.
He's been promoted a couple of times from the Championship. Target Fulham and Villa, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. For those yeah. Harry Winks, 90 grand a week. Boubakary Samari, Leicester, 80 grand a week. Another one for you here. Apparently Finazaz, Southampton. He's on 50 grand a week.
Yeah, he's on an upgrade there. He was. I think he's what 10. I think he was on like 15 to 20 at Middlesbrough. I think. So I mean, his agent's done a cracking job, but he's hated at Southampton at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, he's really not liked. And with Finnes, I think he took a little bit while to warm up at Middlesbrough. When he got going, amazing. But tell you what, 50 grand a week, I bet he's a happy chappy.
Yeah, he's not had the best start, I don't think. I think they're a bit frustrated with his kind of lack of movement. And he gets the numbers, though, doesn't he? Or he did for Boro.
He definitely does. He's a really good player, Finnes. He's just a bit misunderstood, I would say. And fans, I think so, from Middlesbrough side of things, we prefer the physicality over the technical, I would say, as a fan base. I think we're much knitted to a direct style versus a possession based, hence why I don't think he was as liked even with the numbers that he had. But yeah, I think he's going to take time at Southampton, but if he comes good, you've got a really good player there.
Absolutely. And then the front three, I didn't even realise the graphics come up behind me. Beautiful work there. Ryan Fraser, 40k a week. Bobby Decordova-Reid, 35k a week. And Patson Daka, 75 grand a week at Leicester. Some big wages. And I guess that's the issue when you come down from the Premier League, isn't it? If these are to be believed, Ben.
Well, if these are to be believed, you will see the distinct absence of an Ipswich Town player in there. So I don't know what that means, whether that's true or whether Ipswich have... they kept quiet the most controversial transfer deal in the last 20 years. So if they're keeping quiet the wages, it also suggests a lot why Leicester have had the PSR problems that they've had year on year, that these giant contracts that have been given out to players. But well, you tell me, Simon, where's that team finish then? They get promoted, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they'd get promoted, surely spending that much money. What might be a little bit more interesting for the viewers is...
Even with the points deduction they're going to get.
They'll probably get about 20 points deducted. might be a little bit more interesting if we look at the non-parachute team's highest spending wages, obviously taking out the Premier League clubs relegated. So Thomas Kaminski's in goal for Charlton, 20 grand. Jack Stacey, 30 grand. Chris Meffenham, Nat Phillips, West Brom centre-back pairing, reportedly earning 35 and 40 grand a week. Matt Targett obviously keeps his place there, Jonny. Moussa Sissoko, John Lundstrom and Todd Cantwell, the midfield three in there. And then Damari Gray, Kyogo and Tom Ince as the front three, earning between 30 and 35 grand. I think the Birmingham ones there, the forwards, seem about right to me there, Jonny, because they've come up, they've spent big, they've obviously paying some high wages, especially to Kyogo, I think.
Yeah.
They've not quite caught fire yet, but yeah, what do you make of them?
I think Kyogo is worth it. I think his runs are fantastic. They're worth 30 grand a week alone, I would say. With Birmingham, yeah, there was so much expectation on them this year, wasn't there? Everyone was thinking, you know what, automatics comfortably. It doesn't always translate, and I think they're slowly finding out now that there's probably a lot bigger of a jump than what they anticipated it to be.
I think Ipswich are to blame for that quite a lot.
100%. But
the way they came up and went straight up. Birmingham had a better League One season, came straight up into the league, but it doesn't always work like that.
I mean, if you don't break the record points with a £15 million striker, then there's a lot of questions to be answered, to be fair. I think going forward, though, I think they could be a lot better, to be fair. I think Jay Stansfield is fine, but I think there needs more quality. Kyogo's still great. Lyndon Dykes, good Championship centre forward. But Damari Gray, 30 grand a week. Yes, a few years ago I was being like, yeah, what a great talent it is. But I'm not really too sold on Birmingham. I'm just like, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid about them yet. Every time I watch them, I'm like, yes, you're aggressive.
Mate, I was drunk on that Kool-Aid through the summer, I tell you, God.
We were all very bored over the summer, getting excited.
I was getting a Birmingham buzz, put it that way, yeah.
Any that catch your eye there, Ben, that you want to
I'm going to say no Wrexham players in there, which is a big surprise. I suspect if you were a West Brom fan and you believe the tenant that you build from the back, you'd probably be quite pleased to see that you're investing money. And they bought, who's the American, Campbell? They bought another defender in as well in the summer as well. So maybe you'd be quite pleased to see that.
Ben, do you think they're going under the radar a little bit, West Brom?
Well, the first thing I say is nobody goes under my radar, Johnny. But bit hit and miss so far. I've watched them a couple of times, and I think what you were saying about Birmingham, about not connecting up to quite good front players that West Brom are guilty of. But Ryan Mason's been a manager for 9 games, so it's a tricky one to judge.
I really like him, and I can't explain why I have so much goodwill towards Ryan Mason and West Brom.
Maybe it's because the way his career ended as a player.
I think that is it, isn't he? He obviously had his career cut short, and I think it's a really good job, and I think it's a good fit for him as the first manager. And obviously it started well, sloped off a little bit, but I think it's a nice fit there. And I think
it's like talking about Middlesbrough, isn't it? You always expect West Brom to just, in the English football hierarchy, a top 30 team, ergo should be challenging for the playoffs.
And Norwich City, though, who haven't quite performed the same thing. So there's a balance to be made there. Last question I'll ask you, Ben, because you pointed out quite rightly that 16 out of 25 Championship fixtures, once the Wrexham-Birmingham game had been completed, had ended in draws, which is just a remarkable run. Obviously, over the weekend, that softened up a bit. Number one, why? Number two, has it ended?
I hope so, because it was crazy, wasn't it? And there were lots of teams at sort of round 7 that already had 4 draws in their 7 games so far. We had a season like it a few years ago where I remember watching Huddersfield, Luton, Corberan versus Jones and back threes, and we were saying about Boro don't get ahead of the ball and set pieces and all of that, and that was the year Heckingbottom kind of did a 3-5-2 and it was a bit stodgy. I did sort of feel that pragmatic football came in during COVID when there was no fans in the stadium. I do think that, in my kind of tinfoil hat theory, stopped teams being as expansive and attacking, and you didn't have that buzz from the crowd. I think because we've got a bit of a topsy-turvy table at the moment, I think a few managers are emboldened, and when I see, in the top half, I know Charlton have just dropped out, but Jones, Struber likes to control via pressing, doesn't he? Cifuentes has been a bit pragmatic. Edwards, you've said, has. Heckingbottom has as well. Maybe you get a trend and other teams start to follow it.
Do you think it's a pragmatic issue, or is it, Johnny, just a case of there's so many well-matched teams in the Championship this season, we're going to get a lot of draws? Even the teams at the bottom, bar the Sheffield clubs, haven't been bad.
No, they haven't been bad. I would say around the pragmatic piece and someone who's really stuck to their philosophy. Like you say about trends, like you always tend to see what's happening in the Premier League tends to fall down to the Championship and it goes back down. Like we've seen like with the long throws, right? No one was doing long throws apart from Brentford until someone makes it a little bit more sexy, they bring it in. Set pieces are now becoming more and more important, whereas before, like what was like 90% of set pieces like didn't go in. So I think teams are slowly starting to find like those marginal gains and going, okay, well let's double down on things that we can control. But we're seeing with Middlesbrough, just for a prime example, for a pragmatic side, Edwards will change it mid-game 3 or 4 times, and it's fine to be pragmatic, but sometimes you need to strike that balance between pragmatic and also like philosophy, because if you go too pragmatic, I think you start to confuse a lot of people and you start to really disrupt rhythm, and I think that's what Middlesbrough lack right now, and I think a lot of teams will start to lack is just rhythm and tempo in the game, and I think they're so important when we're playing games at the moment. But yeah, it's an interesting division right now. Everyone's trying to counteract each other. There's so much data now, there's so much visuals, there's so much eyes on it, there's people like us will speak about it as well. So there's so many data points for analysis to give the manager like enough observations for them to make that decision on.
And Simon, is it a start of the season thing as well? A feeling out, in the start of the boxing match, you just back off a little bit, but then I get the flip argument that teams get more conservative in the title running as well because they're so scared of losing. So you can run it both ways.
Yeah, you can definitely look at it both ways, and I think we'll know a lot more when teams play each other for the second time, won't we? As we always do. That's it. We're all out of time. Thank you very much, Ben and Jonny, for joining me. We'll be back on Friday for an edition of the Sportsman Untitled Extra, and as I say, I'll be back with Gab and Conor McGilligan for next Monday's Sportsman Untitled. Make sure you like and subscribe. Get your thoughts in the comments down below, but we'll see you next week.